Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, wherever you might be. My name is Michelle Wong, and I'm really glad to have you joining me today. Today we're going to be talking about using QuickBooks Client Data Review, save time cleaning up files. So this is something I think a lot of us can use. We've got a lot of people who are listening live, and yes, this will be recorded because it's a sold-out webinar. In other words, not everybody's going to get in, but several people will be able to watch the recording later. First of all, I want to go ahead and start with a really quick poll question, just to see how familiar you are with polls, or I'm sorry, with CDR or Client Data Review. So how familiar are you with Client Data Review? Have you heard of it before? Have you never heard of it? Have you used it? Kind of where are you at with Client Data Review? So if you could take a minute, go ahead and answer that poll question. We still have attendees who are joining us a little bit late, but we're very glad to have you. So go ahead and take a second to answer that poll question while we're waiting for everybody to get logged in and join us here today. Again, I will be recording it, and glad to have you all here with us. While you're answering that poll question, I'm going to go ahead and look at the Q&A room. Somebody's having computer problems. I'm sorry to hear that, Jill. You might log out and log back in if you're having some computer problems. If you are joining us with an iPad or a tablet today, you can't answer the poll question, so you're not going to be able to participate in the polls. And Jill says she's in. Good. Glad to have you here. I see a lot of names that I recognize on the attendee list. Thank you guys for joining us. I'm glad to have you here. And we've got quite a few of you voting. Still have people trickling in to join us, but I'm going to go ahead and close that poll and share those results with you. Let's see, share, there we go. You should be able to see the results now. And so you can see 56% of you have heard of Client Data Review or CDR, but you haven't really used it. Another third of you have used it a little bit. So very good. We got 10% who have never heard it. Well, good. I'm glad to have you here today to learn more about Client Data Review, because it's something that really can help save you a lot of time. First of all, a little quick introduction for myself. Again, my name is Michelle Long. I'm the owner of Long for Success, and I've got a few products that are available out there. One of them that I wanted to mention is the QuickBooks Practice Set. My son and I actually did this together. He's an accounting student. He's going to graduate with his master's in accounting in December, and he and I put together a QuickBooks Practice Set to give people more practice and experience using QuickBooks with some realistic examples. So if anybody's interested in that, that should be available within about the next week or so. We're doing the final editing on that, and have one more proof copy to take a look at and make sure everything looks okay, and then that'll be available. I've also written a couple of books as well, and you can find more information on all this stuff on my website at longforsuccess.com. So first of all, what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to go over an introduction to Client Data Review, or CDR. That's what we call it for short, Client Data Review. Most of the time, I'm going to be in Client Data Review or in QuickBooks doing a demo. So you don't need to ask about these slides. I've only got like 4 slides, and 1, 2 of them are introduction and stuff like that. So really, the vast majority of this presentation today is going to be actually in Client Data Review. There is no CPE for this webinar. It is a free webinar, and there's no CPE, so don't ask about how do I get CPE credits. I do have a couple polling questions just to get to know you guys a little better and who's in the audience. And then also, if you want to go ahead and subscribe to my blog to make sure you don't miss future webinars, because I plan to do more of these over the summer and the fall to help you all with topics that you are interested in. I'd also encourage you to join my LinkedIn group. There's almost 30,000 members now, and it's a great resource when you have questions or things like that, or you want to network with your peers. So if you just even search for QuickBooks under groups in LinkedIn, you'll find it under Successful QuickBooks Consultants. So I'd encourage you to join that. But let's start talking about what is Client Data Review. Client Data Review is a compilation of tools, or there's several different tools that are within Client Data Review. There's like 14 different tools or 17 different tools, depending on how you count it. There's a bunch of tools for accountants and bookkeepers to help us with cleaning up our client data files. It's in QuickBooks Accountant and QuickBooks Enterprise Accountant. So it's fully functional in both the accountant editions for QuickBooks and QuickBooks Enterprise. There is some limited availability in some other versions of QuickBooks. So for example, if you log in QuickBooks Pro, there's going to be a little bit of limited availability. You must sign in as the accountant's user, and there's a limited number of tools or a limited number of uses. Let me just go ahead and get into QuickBooks and show you what I'm talking about there. Also, I see you guys are typing in some questions for me, and I appreciate that. I will be answering your questions verbally. I won't be able to type in an answer while I'm presenting this. So somebody says they would like a copy of this presentation. Yes, Mike, it is being recorded, and you will be able to listen to the recording later. There's only like 3 or 4 PowerPoints, so I'm not going to make those available. Somebody missed yesterday's webinar. Send me an email, and I can send you the link for that. So let's talk about some of the limitations to client data review when you're not in QuickBooks Accountant Edition. So what I've got open right here, if you see up on this top title bar, is I'm in QuickBooks Pro. So I have toggled over to QuickBooks Pro from QuickBooks Accountant Edition so that I could show this to you. I don't have an accountant's menu up here, but if I go to Company, I can see Client Data Review in here. Where is it? Used to be up here. There it is, Client Data Review. Now, in order to see this, I have to be logged in as the accountant user. So under Company Setup Users, you need to make sure that you've set up a user as the accountant, not the admin user, but an accountant user, and you have to log in as the accountant user to see that. Once you've logged in as the accountant user, then yes, you have access to Client Data Review. Now, this is our secret. We don't want to share this with our clients because Client Data Review is pretty powerful, and we don't want them to get in and make mistakes. But you don't have full access. For example, if I try to reclassify transactions, and we're going to go over all these different tools later, I can't do it. It says this is only available in QuickBooks Accountant Edition. So the Reclassify Transactions, the Write-Off Invoices is only available in Accountant Edition. The Fix Sales Tax Payable, you can find it in here, but you can't fix it. The Fix feature is only in Accountant Edition. And Troubleshoot Inventory, those are only available in the Accountant Edition. So if you want fully functioning Client Data Review, you need to be in the Accountant Edition. The other thing is you have an Accountant Center in QuickBooks Pro, and this is true on other Premier editions as well. If you're in Premier Contractor or something like that, you would have access to the Accountant Center, and in the Accountant Center, they will give you a few tries of some of those tools. So for example, if you wanted to try out the Reclassify Transactions, you can use it for a few times. It's going to tell you what it is, and it's going to let you use it for 6 times, and that's across all of your different clients. They're trying to let you kind of look, just kind of see it and see how great it is. And the idea is they want you to upgrade to QuickBooks Accountant so you have it fully functional. So just keep in mind, to have all access to Client Data Review that we're going to be talking about today, you need to be in QuickBooks Accountant Edition to have full access and to all the features. So that might mean that you need to get a backup file from your client. So maybe you tell the client, I need to work on your file, so maybe you have them send it to you Thursday night or Friday night, and you're going to work on it over the weekend. Send them that backup, and then log in remotely to help them restore that on Monday morning, because you really need to have their file. An accountant's copy isn't the greatest. Not everything will go back. I think it's best if you've got a lot of cleanup work to do to just go ahead and get their backup file and work in it that way. Now, I had 2 versions of QuickBooks open. I'm going to go ahead and close this one because I don't want 2 of them open, and I'm going to then log into or move over to, let's just, oops, I canceled it, the other one. Yes, I want to exit, and no, I don't want to worry about that, and no, I don't want to back up. I had another version of QuickBooks that was open in the Accountant Edition, and so now this will become my primary instead of my secondary. So I'm in QuickBooks Accountant Edition. You can access Client Data Review under the Accountant menu. We didn't have the Accountant menu when we were in QuickBooks Pro. Remember, we logged in as the Accountant's user, and we were able to access it under the Company menu. But now that I'm in QuickBooks Accountant Edition, Client Data Review will be under the Accountant menu. So I hope that helps. And some people are asking about, well, is this available in QuickBooks 2012? Yes, Client Data Review was first introduced in 2009, I believe it was, and in 2010 is when we had a lot of additional features like the write-off invoices, the reclassify, and things like that. So since 2010, we've had almost all these tools. So yes, it is in QuickBooks Accountant Edition since 2010 and newer. Can Client Data Review be used with QuickBooks Online Accountant? No, it is for the desktop version, although there are a few tools in QBO and QBOA for QuickBooks Online Accountants, and I'm doing a webinar on those this afternoon if you'd like to join us with that. For that. Will this work with Mac? No, it won't work. Well, I take that back. Yes and no. You could have your Mac client save that company file for QuickBooks for Windows, bring it into Windows and do it here, use it in your QuickBooks Accountant for Windows and make all those changes, and then copy that company file back for Mac and send it back to the client. However, it's not a seamless transition, and you do need to have the same year. And a lot of times when you send things back with the Mac version, the bank recs get undone and things like that. So depending on the situation and how much cleanup you have to do, it may or may not work for you. You may want to test it by doing just a couple of things and send it back that way. And then one more question, and then I'm going to get back into demoing. Is the accountant version compatible with the different desktop versions? Okay, so let's talk about compatibility. When you have QuickBooks Accountant Edition, you can open files from QuickBooks Pro and QuickBooks Premier, all the Premier editions, whether it's contractor or manufacturing or whatever. QuickBooks Pro, Premier, and Accountants all share the same data file. So you can open files back and forth as long as it's the same year. Okay? If you have, whoops, sorry, let me see, the webinar's full. You guys are lucky you got in here. If you have clients that are using QuickBooks Enterprise, you need QuickBooks Enterprise Edition. But with QuickBooks Pro, Premier, and Accountant, you can open the same file as long as it's the same year. If they have an older year of QuickBooks, then it's not compatible. Once you upgrade that file to the newer year, you cannot send it back to them. The exception is if they are using 1 year older than you and you get an accountant's copy. So if you're using QuickBooks Accountant 2013, the client can create an accountant's copy in 2012, send you that file, and then you can work with it, an accountant's copy only, and make those changes and export changes to the client. But this is more about client data review. I don't want to get too in-depth into compatibility and working with clients and all that. So let's go ahead now and talk more about client data review. So under the Accounts menu, I go to Client Data Review, and I can launch individual tools if I just have a few things that I need to do. But I'm going to go ahead and launch the full Client Data Review because this is a service that you can provide for your clients on an ongoing basis, perhaps monthly, maybe quarterly, at a minimum annually. Now, I've already started this review, and so I'm looking at last fiscal year, but you could modify the dates of your review and things like that. So within Client Data Review, you're going to see the little wrench icon. That means that this is a tool that is only in Client Data Review. It's a CDR tool. So I'm going to say CDR. I'm talking about Client Data Review. For example, the Troubleshoot balances and the Reclassify Transactions is only in CDR. Open a working trial balance, you could do that in QuickBooks without CDR. So Client Data Review has all of these different tools for you working with account balances. We can review list changes. We can work with accounts receivable, accounts payable, sales taxes, and I'm minimizing all these so you can see them all at once. All of these different tools and different areas that we have here. So this is a great kind of format for you to kind of go through there and do a systematic review or cleanup of a client file. So as you get in here, you can start at the top. You can keep review notes for overall review. You can have then completed and task statuses. So in here you can keep track of what the status is, and you can even have task notes for each individual task. So this is a great way to really manage your review engagement. When I say review, I'm not talking about CPAs that do reviews and compilations and audits. I'm just talking about a non-technical, like a review of the data file, not a accountant's assurance review. So just let's make sure we keep that differentiated. But one of the first things that I think is really cool is this troubleshoot prior account balances. We know you get in there and you do the client's books, you close out their return, you make the year-end journal entries, and then guess what happens? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and say don't show that. They go in and make changes, right? They'll void something from last year, they'll make a new entry, they'll change the balance, and the balances change. And then we got to play, hide and go seek to go figure out what changes did the client make. Once you're using Client Data Review and you've saved your first review and you've marked the review complete, it will put those prior balances in here. But the very first time you do this, there's no balances in there. So what you can do is you can actually copy the balances. And what this does, it'll copy the current balances that are in the client files. Those may or may not be right. But what you can do is you can say copy those balances, and then the very first time only. After you do this the first time, it's going to remember those balances. You can then go through here and review, and you can say, oh, whoops, this changed. It actually was supposed to be $1,000. You can review this and say, oh, this changed. It should have been $332. So the first time you have to manually go through and compare the balances, make the changes. After the first time you use Client Data Review and you mark this review complete, it will keep your reviewed numbers in here. So it's going to keep what are your balances, and now it's going to show you what are the client balances. You're going to be able to drill down and see at a glance what changed and see which transactions they were, and you can even filter to only show accounts that changed. So at a glance, it'll show you what changed, and it'll even give you some suggested adjustments to fix it, to make those balances be what they used to be. So that's one tool that's really helpful for you, is to review those account balances. The other one that I just really love is Reclassify Transactions. How many of you have clients that post things to the wrong account? If you raise your little hand in here, over on the little toolbar, if you click the orange arrow, you should be able to open up the little toolbar for the GoToWebinar. Raise your hand if you have clients that post things to the wrong account. Okay, I should pretty much see everybody raising their hand. Click the little hand icon. There we go. Do you guys have clients that do that? I'm sure you do. Hello. They always do that, right? They post things to the wrong account, and then we have to go in there and find out where it was. The manual way to fix it is go in on each one of them and fix it, right? So let's say I want to review the insurance account, and I'm looking through here, and I say, whoops, I see some fuel that got into insurance expense. The old way would be double-click on the check, go in here, change this to the fuel expense account. I got to fix this, and save and close, and go back through and do this on all of them, right? There's a lot of clicks involved there. Got to go through each one of them. With Client Data Review, you don't have to do that. I can come in here and I can say, okay, this one, and this one. I need to reclassify all of those to the fuel expense account. And here's something else that's really cool. If you're using classes and the client all of a sudden decides, hey, I want to start using classes, and they haven't been doing it in the past, I could also use this tool to assign the class to a bunch of them all at once. So I could go through here and assign the class to a bunch of them all at once. So you can reclassify and fix them, and you can assign a class all at one time. Now you'll see it took those three, and I now will see them the fuel expense over here. And see, there's the new construction. So in a hurry, it will reclassify all those for you. How cool is that? You guys like that? Do you think that's pretty neat? Can you say yes? No? Is that going to save you a lot of time? I love that. Thank you, Robin. So do I. You can go through here, review your client's entries. Thank you. You guys are now typing in there. Very cool. Love it. Very neat. Totally cool. Time saver for me, says Nancy. Just using that is going to help save you a lot of time. So Reclassify Transactions, you can come in here and look at things from the profit and loss, the balance sheet. Let's say you have clients that put a bunch of tools to the expense account, and you need to move it up to a fixed asset account. So you can go through here, review transactions, select them, reclassify a bunch of them at one time. Now remember, this is the tool that you have to have QuickBooks Accountant to use. You can't use it in the other ones. It wasn't available when you logged in as QuickBooks Pro. So that's one tool that I really like, is under Account Balances. Review the list changes. We know you can look at the audit trail and try to go find out transactions that have changed, but you can't find list changes like the chart of accounts or the items list. This tool will show you what the client has added, changed, deleted, or merged. When they merge accounts and you're trying to figure out what is going on, this is also something that will change your prior account balances, and you got to go in and figure out what they changed. So this will help you to look at things like, okay, well, they added a money market account as a bank account. Well, that seems to be okay. So you could mark that as reviewed and okay. Sales tax discounts, did I want them to put that to an income account, or do I need to fix that? You could double-click, drill down, make changes if you need to. They changed the repairs account, and what did they change? Well, originally it said repairs, and now it says repairs and maintenance. So this allows you to review things to see if it's okay. Here's something they deleted, and here's things they merged, because there's no way to see things that they've merged, especially like with the items list. If they make changes to the items, when they go in and change the accounts or something, they can tell it to update history. And it'll say, do you want to update all existing transactions? And they can say yes. And so you're trying to figure out what changed. This tool can help you to track those list changes to see what's happening and what changes there are. So the list changes is something that's very helpful for you as well. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize that under the review list changes. Now let's talk about receivables and payables a little bit. So I'm going to take a look here and see if we have any questions. How do I keep track of what I have changed? There will be a list of changes, and see down here at the very bottom where it says Audit Trail of Review. It's going to keep track of your changes. So you're going to be able to keep track of all those changes, and that's one reason why, too, you should be logging in as the accountant's user. You don't want to log in as admin. When you log in as the accountant's user, you have almost admin rights. You can't see credit cards, and you can't add or change other users, but other than that, you have admin rights. So log in as the accountant's user. That keeps track of the changes that you've made, and you're going to be able to get an audit trail of your review as well as to save this as a PDF or print these changes out so that you help document it. We got an awesome out there. Yay! So that's great. Can you use the reclassification tool on the accountant's copy? Yes, you should be able to reclassify because that would go back normally with an accountant's copy. So reclassifying and changing those accounts, those changes will go back with an accountant's copy. Let's talk about accounts receivable now. Let me go in and show you under reports. Let's go in and look at customers and receivables and an open invoice report. How many of you have seen this where you have an invoice and a payment and the net is zero, right? And your clients are like, oh, go in and clean this up for me. We only have the one here. But you have an invoice and a payment nets to zero. And you want to go through and clean these things up for your clients, but it's time consuming to do it manually. With client data review, we have a tool that can help us with that. Fix unapplied payments and credits. What this will do for us is it will show us under, let's see, that was Robert Allard, here's the payment and here's the invoice. I can say, oh yeah, I need to apply that payment to that invoice. It was entered, but it was never applied to the invoice, so it's not clearing it out. We just need to link the two together, and that's where this tool can help us to do that. So I could have checked down here to auto-apply them, or I can just apply like that. I click Apply. I can click Save. And now when I go back over to that open invoice report, you'll see Robert Allard is cleaned up and off of there. Awesome, love it. Yes, I love it too. Isn't that a great tool? This is something that's going to save you a lot of time to clean up versus doing it manually. So you have the unapplied payments and credits, and that's great. Now, how many of you have clients that have growing undeposited funds? Right? I should see everybody saying, yes, I have growing undeposited funds. Yes, many. That is one of the most common mistakes clients make. What happens is they come in and they receive their payment, or else they enter a sales receipt and it goes into undeposited funds. Then they come along and they look in their check register over here and they take a look at it and they say, I don't see that deposit. I better tab across here and I'm going to put it to an income account to record it. So what happens is they're able now go ahead and reconcile the bank account. They can reconcile because they only put the deposit in there one time. But the problem is when they enter it in the check register, they leave it sitting in undeposited funds, so it's overstated, and they posted it to income, so that's overstated. So when they don't follow the flow chart over here, they have problems with undeposited funds. And that's where the client data review, this clear up undeposited funds, can help us to go through there and fix those. So for example, here's this deposit. I'm going to double click to bring it up, and you can see they posted it to the income account. If you were to come in here and you say, yes, I want to apply this deposit to this payment, because they entered the payment and they entered the deposit, but they did it wrong. When I do this and apply it and I click Save, and it says you've changed it, I'm going to say yes. Now let's look over here what happened on this deposit window. Now when I click, whoops, deposits, look how it changed that from income to undeposited funds. So it cleans up the undeposited funds and the overstatement of income in one step for you. So that allows you to go through and clean things up step by step. Now, there's another way that you can clean up undeposited funds. Let me just show you this real quickly because I don't have time to cover it in here. But if you go into YouTube and you search for Michelle Long CPA, all one word, I have a YouTube video out there that shows you how to do other things to clean up undeposited funds. let me get into my account here really quickly. And of course, the internet's going to be slow for me now. If you go to Michelle Long, CPA, I think it's all one word, Michelle Long or Michelle L. Long, search for my channel out here. There's a YouTube video, how to fix undeposited funds. If they have a whole lot of undeposited funds sitting out there, like 15,000 of them, it's the biggest one I've ever seen. This video shows you how to clean them up in a hurry. It's just a quick little 5-minute video, but you might want to check that out to see how to clean those up in a hurry. But this tool allows you to clean them up one by one, okay? But if you have thousands of them, you may not have the time to do them one by one, even with this tool. So check out that other video. That was like something from the Twilight Zone. Amazing. That is cool. Isn't it cool how that works? Wait till you see some of the other cool things that this does. I love client data review. It's so cool. So yeah, so that was the cleanup undeposited funds. The other thing that's great is write-off invoices. When you have clients that have a whole lot of invoices out there that are old, they're small amounts, and they're uncollectible, you can go through here and use this tool to say, okay, I want to look at things that are, you know, maybe over 180 days old, and maybe even a balance less than $100, $500, whatever you want to come in there and look at your threshold. Then you could go in here and say, okay, this one I'm not going to collect the remaining balance on that. You could select them individually, or you could select all of them. You could indicate down here what account or what items you want to use for the write-off and what class, if you're using classes, what is your write-off date. You can then preview and write off a bunch of invoices in one fell swoop. Again, this is something that manually, you probably couldn't go through and manually enter a credit and write off each one of these invoices separately. If you have hundreds of them, it's not very efficient. But by using this tool, it's efficient for you to go through and you clean up your client's old invoices and write those off. So that, again, is something that's going to save time. And your clients love it when you go in there and you clean up their files and do this. So this is also an example of where when you're using client data review and these tools are saving you so much time, you don't want to bill hourly. You want to do value billing when you're doing things like this. Great. Somebody says, awesome, I can really use this for my new client. Yes, that's what I like to hear. Now, let's keep moving on and talk about some of these other tools down here. Let's talk about accounts payable next. All right, so let's talk about accounts payable. We talked about with accounts receivable when we had open payments and credits. Same thing might happen with your vendors. You might have unapplied vendor payments and credits. And again, you can go through here and fill these things out manually, but it's so much faster when you do it using client data review. So in this example, we have a couple of bills entered here. We have a check. So here's the check that they entered. And what do they usually do? They post it to an expense account, right? So they posted it to an expense account, but when they entered the bill, they also posted it to an expense account. So we've got that balance sitting in there. So see, again, we've got expenses here. So we've got that balance sitting in accounts payable, and we've also got, so accounts payable is overstated and our expense is overstated. Again, I can apply this check for $750, and I can apply it to 2 bills. All right, if it was for 2 of them, we apply these things. It's going to clear that up. I could click Save, and it's also going to fix the problem underneath, because now when I go look at my Write Checks window, let's pull that up, Write Checks. Sorry, I clicked too many times. Before it had the expense account, it automatically changes that to accounts payable, so it fixes the overstatement in accounts payable and the overstatement in the expense account for you automatically, or automagical. Okay, you've made me a believer, says Dee. I'm using CDR from now on. I always did it the old-fashioned way. That's right. We don't want to do it the old-fashioned way anymore. We got these great tools that Intuit created for us as accounting professionals. We told them what we wanted. Yeah, somebody likes my word, automagical. Yes, it's automagic. The programmers just make it work for us. And that's where, you know what, I got to brag for a minute, because I was really thrilled to be part of the Client Data Review posse. I was on the team that helped create the write-off invoices, the Reclassify Transactions, Troubleshoot Inventory, and the Find and Fix sales taxes. So we told the programmers what we wanted to do, and then they made it happen for us. And so it's like, wow, it's like magic. You guys were able to do this. So yeah, I think it's automagical. So anyway, so back to client data review. So that's going to help you cleaning up your receivables and your payables. You could go in here and look at the 1099 mappings, review unpaid bills. And again, these tools are things that aren't data review specific, but when you're going through a client data file, these are some things that you can do as part of your cleanup process. And so this is where you might want to do this for your clients. And the first time, you might charge them more because there's going to be a lot of things that you need to clean up. After that, if you do a cleanup or a checkup of their files on a quarterly basis, then at year end, that file is not a big mess. You know, it's going to be a lot easier for the year-end work to get ready for the taxes and things like that. So you can do client data review. Like right now, I've got it on an annual basis up here, but you can change that review period to be a quarterly basis or maybe even a monthly basis. But this is where it really is a great service to your clients, and they're going to appreciate it too because they like having their reports all cleaned up and everything. Okay, so Nancy says she thinks we lost me. Do you guys still hear me? Can somebody type in there and let me know if you hear me? Yes, they can hear me. Okay, thank you for that. You guys can all hear me. Great. Okay, thank you, thank you. Glad I didn't get lost. We do have storms in the area today, so I was a little nervous about that. Now, let's talk about some other common mistakes that we have. But first of all, see how I have a lot of windows open over here? I need to go ahead and close a bunch of those because I get too many windows open. So I'm going to do a Windows Close All to get rid of a bunch of those. And by the way, this is something you should teach your clients to do, is close all their windows. Sometimes they didn't save something, and so things aren't updating properly. Or when they close QuickBooks, they should close all their windows so that when they go back into QuickBooks, it doesn't have to start all those windows again. Those of you that are using QuickBooks 2013 and you don't like that left icon bar over here, go under View, top icon bar, and open Windows List, and you could get your screen to look like mine does. I've gone in here and put it back, and I also went under my preferences and made my icon bar to be color again. So very good. Okay, so let's talk about sales taxes, and what do we usually see that happens there? What happens there is a lot of our clients, when it's time to pay their sales taxes, what do? Well, they come along and they say, oh, if I'm paying taxes, that must be an expense, right? So I'm going to write a check, and I post it to what? Usually they post it to a sales tax expense account, right? So when you come out and you look at the client and you go in and you look at their P&L report, and I don't know if I'm going to see any on here. I should have checked this before I did it. Let's just go ahead and do this fiscal year is what I meant to select. This fiscal year, you come down and you look down in here, and you're usually going to see some taxes expense, and you'll see like state tax expense, and I'm not seeing any right off the bat here. But I know there's some out there. So let's go ahead and go back to our client data review. But usually what they'll do is they write a check and they make it payable to sales tax expense or state tax expense. And so they've got a big balance sitting in accounts payable, and they've got a big balance down in the expense account, and because they didn't go through the pay sales tax window. Now, in order to do that, when I click on Fix Incorrectly Recorded Sales Taxes, to fix this manually, what I would have to do is I would have to go into this check. So I find what's been paid incorrectly. I would have to go into this check. I would have to write down the check number, the check date, the check amount, void or delete this check, actually delete this check, go back into the pay sales tax window and enter it correctly in order to fix it. And if the check was already cleared, I've messed up my bank reconciliation, right? So you got to re-reconcile the bank account and everything. So when you go in and fix it manually, and it looks like these are actually payroll taxes instead of sales taxes, but just bear with me. This is a sample file, and I tried to go in and set these things up. But normally I'm talking about sales tax payments. But what this tool will do for me is, first of all, it identifies things that were made payable to what looks like a sales tax vendor based on your sales tax item when you set that up. So when you select these things, look what it says it's going to do. It's going to void that check. It's going to replace it with a sales tax payment or a sales tax check. And if it was cleared already, see this, the cleared status, it will still be cleared. It's not going to mess up your bank rec. It's going to keep that check cleared. So we've got check numbers 104 and 106 here. When I click void and replace, it's telling me it's going to do this. Proceed. Let's go ahead and void and replace those. And now let's go look in our check register. Let me go ahead and look in the register, and let's show you what happened there. when I go up and I got to find checks 104 and 106, and I think they were last year, weren't they? Let's just do this quickly, and let's do it by date and order entered. And let's go find checks 104 and 106. Well, heck, I should have it over here. There I do. Check 106. I still wanted it. What's the date of it? January 15th, 2016. All right, so let's go. Oh, I got to go way up to 2016. Sorry, people. I should have. Let's click that, get us up there faster. And I could do a find, but I want to show it to you in the register. There they are. There they are up here, 104 and 106. Now let's go back to the 2 lines so I can show you the memo and everything. So see here we have check 104 and 106. And up here is 104. The original one was just a check. Here's 104. The replacement one is now a tax payment. Check number 104, it says it's voided. And down here on check number 106, or I'm sorry, 104, the tax payment, it says replaces that check number. So it voids it and it retains that cleared status. Isn't that cool? Yay! I see lots of people that says, awesome, wonderful, I love this. Yes, isn't that amazing how cool that is? That will save you lots of time. It will actually find and fix those sales tax payments for you. Super duper. Yay! Unbelievable. Yes, now remember, this is something that you have to have QuickBooks Accountant Edition or QuickBooks Enterprise Accountant. You need to have the Accountant Edition or the Enterprise Accountant Edition if your client's using QuickBooks Enterprise. This is one of those tools that you can't access through that back door that I talked to you about with QuickBooks Pro. In QuickBooks Pro, if you go in there, it will find incorrectly paid sales taxes, but you have to manually fix them. And unfortunately, that's the case when it comes to payroll. I'm going to skip inventory a minute and come back to it. Notice here it says fix incorrectly recorded sales taxes, and down here it says find. Unfortunately, on the payroll taxes, it will find things that were done incorrectly, but you have to manually fix those. Isn't that a bummer? So why, when we were doing it for sales taxes, didn't they go ahead and do it for payroll taxes? Yes, I get some frowny faces. I agree. That's a bummer. So here it shows you that check. You got to do it the old-fashioned way. You have to write down the check number, the check amount, and all this. You got to void it. You got to replace it. And if it was already cleared, then you got to redo your bank reconciliation to fix those balances there. So if you want Intuit to work on changing that, what you need to do is help me with this. You go under Help, Send Feedback Online, and Product Suggestion. And you want to tell them on Client Data Review, you want the payroll taxes to be find and fixed, just like sales taxes are find and fixed. If we get enough people requesting that change, then that might be something that they would include in a future update. So again, under Help, Send Feedback Online, and you might get some help with that, or hopefully we could get some help with that. So that's on the payroll. Now, with payroll, any changes that you make with payroll and send back, those changes are not going to go back with a accountant's copy. So if you've identified, here's these checks that were paid incorrectly, what I recommend you do is print this out or have this report available, log in remotely to your client's file to make these changes and corrections, because payroll changes and corrections will not go back with an accountant's copy. You're going to need to log in remotely and do those changes. So just keep that in mind. When you're working with an accountant's copy, payroll stuff definitely does not go back. Now, let's talk about inventory. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize payroll and minimize my sales taxes. Let's talk about inventory. And we are moving along pretty quickly here, so if people have some questions, if you want to type them in the questions box, and actually I'm going to take a second here to ask a couple of questions or answer a couple of questions that you've asked. But go ahead and type those in if you have questions. Let's see. Will the corrections to undeposited funds go back in an accountant's copy? Yes. When you make corrections to on the undeposited funds, those are things that will go back with an accountant's copy. Can you download QuickBooks Online to Accountant 2013 and then upload it with the changes? No, you cannot do that. You can't go back and forth between QBO or QuickBooks Online and the desktop version. You can re-upload a file within like the first 30 or 60 days, but after that, you can't upload changes. Now, QuickBooks Online Accountants does have the Reclassify Transactions tool and the Write-Off Invoices. Those tools are now in QBOA, and I'm doing a webinar this afternoon, 2 of them actually, in QBO and QBOA. Those 2 tools are in there online, but you can't take it down and send things back up. All right, let's see a couple other questions that I could answer for you. Again, if you want to type them in the question box, I will answer them as I can. Need to know about not billing hourly for this exercise. Okay, so the thing is, when you invest your time and your money to learn more about these tools, when you invest in the ProAdvisor program or when you invest in QuickBooks Accountant Edition to get these tools that are going to make you more efficient, you should be billing hourly, because what happens is, as you get it done faster, let's say this cleanup of a client file would have taken you 8 hours without client data review, but you buy QuickBooks Accountant or you join the ProAdvisor program, so you get QuickBooks Accountant, and now you can get this done in 4 hours. Should you be penalized for your efficiency and make less money? That's where we want to focus on value billing. What's the value of what we bring to our clients? As you get more efficient and more effective and you're able to use these tools and do things faster, you should still be billing value-based billing. So let's say, for example, you may want to do a cleanup, and this is where, too, you can use client data review to take a look at their file. Go in and look at, under accounts receivable, go in and look at, how many unapplied payments and deposits do they have out here? Do they have a whole bunch? Do they have just a few? And here's on the customer side and on the vendor side. Do we have a lot of names that are unapplied? When we look at undeposited funds, are there a lot of those out there? How messy is this? Are there a lot of invoices that need written off? Go in and look at that file. It can give you an idea of how messy things are. And the first time you do the cleanup, you may charge more. Let's say you charge $1,000 for the initial cleanup, because you may have to do some things manually still. So let's say you charge a lot. Then maybe you say, okay, now we're going to do a quarterly cleanup for you on an ongoing basis, and it's only going to be, say, $250. And if it only takes you an hour or 2, then your effective billing rate has gone up. So keep that in mind and try to switch from hourly billing to value-based billing and have a fixed fee price for that review for your client. This also spreads the work throughout the year, so you're not waiting until tax time when you're already swamped and don't have enough time. And it also allows you, too, to help train your clients on what they're doing wrong, so that there's less and less cleanup that you need to do on an ongoing basis. So that was a really good question. Where are they in QuickBooks Online? You have to log in under QuickBooks Online Accountant to access those tools. And again, I'm doing 2 webinars on those this afternoon. You're going to want to log in early because they're over capacity as well. So we'll talk more about QBO and QBOA in this afternoon's free webinars. Let's see, what is the best date to use when starting with a new client? Would you recommend the previous fiscal year or the current? Cindy, that's a good question, is what are you going to do for your review? And up here is the date of your review. It really depends on whether the taxes have been filed. If you find a bunch of things that are wrong from last year, particularly if, like, undeposited funds, they could have their income overstated. When we're talking about cleaning up payables, if they have expenses overstated and the payables overstated, did they file the tax returns based on overstated income from undeposited funds or overstated expenses? You may need to do some investigating to determine, do they need to file an amended tax return? I can't answer that for you. You're going to have to get in and look at that file and see what's going on. If there's a few minor changes from prior years, you may or may not want to clean things up. But whatever you do, make sure that you keep track of what were the year-end numbers that were filed for tax purposes. And if you identify material changes or material differences, talk to the CPA or the accountant or the tax professional or whoever is responsible for their tax return about, do we need to do this in the prior year and possibly file amended returns? Or is this something we want to write off in the current year? Those are some things that you're going to have to analyze on a case-by-case basis. Okay, let's see if we've got a couple of other questions in here. I'm excited for the QBOA webinar this afternoon. Good, Shannon, so am I. I'm glad to see you there. Okay, let's go ahead. We've got about 15 minutes left. Let me talk about inventory, and you guys can type some more questions in there that you might have, and we'll still have some time for questions in a little bit. But let's talk about inventory, because inventory is some of the biggest messes that I've seen. I don't know about you guys, but it seems like payroll and inventory are the biggest, messiest things that we can get into. So we've created a couple tools here to help you in cleaning up your inventory problems. First of all, compare the balance sheet and the inventory valuation. Did you realize those numbers could get off? When you look at your balance sheet balance, or if you prepare the inventory valuation report, the detail report of inventory, those two can be different. How can they be different? Why can they be different? Well, there's several different things, but usually transactions using the inventory asset account but not an inventory item. Never, ever, ever, never make journal entries for inventory. The reason for that is when you have a journal entry, and that's what happened here, when you have a journal entry, let's think about it. There's no column for items. Let me just go ahead and pull this journal entry up. You'll see in the journal entry we can do a debit and a credit, and that's what's happened here is they've debited the inventory asset account. There's no column for item. That's going to make your inventory detail different from your balance sheet balance because there's no item. We didn't indicate an item. So that creates an inventory difference. Also, if they come in and write a check, let me just come into the write checks window. Let's just go ahead and create a new one here. If they post it right here to the inventory account, inventory asset, and they make a journal entry there, again, that will cause a difference because we didn't indicate the inventory items. Those things cause problems. If you need to make an inventory adjustment, you don't do a journal entry, come in under inventory activities, and in there you can adjust your quantity or your value on hand. Don't make journal entries for inventory problems. You need to do an inventory adjustment. So back to our compare the balance sheet. This report will show you transactions that caused a difference. Okay, so when you have a difference between the inventory detail and the balance sheet balance, this will help you to identify journal entries or checks that were written and posted to the inventory asset account instead of using an item. Then there's some other links in here to help you to review some of these things. So that's the first thing, is kind of take a look at that. Then the other thing is when we're in here, the Troubleshoot Inventory tool. The Troubleshoot Inventory tool is a really amazing tool, and I think the programmers just did awesome with this because inventory is something that's really hard to get in and analyze what's going on, what's wrong. There's a lot of different situations and a lot of different things that can go on. So, for example, up here we can filter by all these different things. So let's say I want to filter and I just want to look for things where we didn't buy or sell any during the year. If I didn't buy or sell any during the year, maybe I need to write these inventory items off and make them inactive. If I don't have any activity on them for the whole year, maybe I don't need that. What about some items that I made inactive? And so I can pick and choose my filters here. Did I make any items inactive with the quantity on hand? Because if there's a quantity on hand, you need to write that off before you make the item inactive. And no, I didn't have any here, so that's a good thing. Did I have any inventory items with a markup less than a certain percentage? Maybe somebody has entered the sales price wrong. Look at these. I have several items with no sales price. Wow. Now, you might have a client where the sales price varies all the time depending on what they bought. So they may have it as 0, and they may need to enter that sales price on each transaction, so it may be okay. I don't know, but this is just a tool to help you to look at things and help you to analyze things to see, is this a problem, yes or no? Now, let's look at something else here, negative quantity. Let me take this filter off and look at negative quantity, because negative inventory can create havoc. And you have two choices down here. Do you want to see if there's negative inventory as of the end date or the ending date of your review, like year end, or at any time in the date range? When you have negative inventory, it can create lots of problems in QuickBooks when it comes to cost of goods sold, because it will look at the inventory item to see if there's a cost there. If there's no cost there, it can actually record that as 0. So for example, let me just go ahead and pull up one of these items here. Let's go in and look at this item. QuickBooks will look at the average cost based on the purchases that you've made. When you make a sale, it goes in and it looks at the average cost, okay? Maybe there's nothing there because you haven't entered that purchase yet. Then it will come look up here to see if you entered something for this cost. If there's nothing there, or if there's a 0 there, then QuickBooks will record that invoice with 0 cost. And so it messes things up. Then when you have a purchase later, it often will make adjusting entries, or if it used this cost instead of the average cost, it will make some correcting entries to try to get things back up to date or back up to the right average. So you'll be looking at things and you're like, where did $5 come from? I didn't buy anything for $5 ever. Well, that might be an adjustment that it's making to get the average cost back in line. It makes it really difficult to see what's going on. So you want to really emphasize to your clients, don't sell negative inventory. And what happens is they might set up widget A and then they don't see it, so they sell widget B because it's a similar name, but they couldn't find it, and whatever the case may be, it can cause lots of problems. And QuickBooks will warn you, or you can tell it, warn me if there's negative inventory, but they'll say, oh, I know, I can see it right there. I know I've got it in stock, so I'm going to go ahead and sell it. So negative inventory can cause lots of problems. Tell your clients not to do that. Now, let's go in and let's look at one of these. Let's look at this one on the door frames. When I double-click on that, that gives me a report that will show me the activity on that item. It will show me all of that activity. I also could go to the items list, and let me just show you this real quickly. If I go to items list, whenever you want to see all of the activity for an item, so for example, I think I was on door frame. If you right-click and do quick report, you might want to go in and look at all the activity on that item to see what's gone on, to see when it was purchased, when it was sold, help you to identify the activity and when it's negative. That's what you're also getting from this report when you double-click here, or when you click here. It will also show you all that activity. So right here is on that door frame. So either way, you could get in and look at that quick report. The key is you need to buy the inventory before you sell it. And I know that sounds very obvious. You need to buy the inventory before you sell it. But what happens is they may enter that bill later. So for example, right here, I have a bill on February 1st for 50 of these, but on my invoice, I sold them on January 31st. It can be as simple as to fix the negative inventory and fix the problem as change the date of this bill to the date on or before the inventory. All right, you want the bill or the purchase of the inventory to be on or before the date you sell the inventory. So you can go in here and be very careful and always, you know what, that's another good thing. When you're cleaning up data files, back up before you start making lots of changes and back up periodically while you're working through all these changes, just in case there's unintended consequences. But you can see there I fixed that by going in and changing the date of the bill or the date of the check or the date of the purchase of the inventory before the date of the sale. Have it dated on or before the date of the sale. And that's going to help you to clean up negative inventory. Sometimes inventory is really, really, really messed up. And sometimes the client cannot afford the time or the cost to really clean it up because they have so many items and such a big mess. Sometimes what you need to do is do a physical count at the end of the year, adjust everything to actual on hand, clean out all the mess, and start doing it right in the new year. And you've got to train your clients to enter inventory properly. They need to enter the purchase and the sale of inventory properly, or they're going to create lots of problems. Sometimes it's best for clients to just use a periodic inventory system. Instead of trying to track all the details, record your purchases to the purchases account and cost of goods sold. As you buy it, put it into purchases. Periodically count the inventory, do a physical count and valuation, and adjust to actual. Some clients, they may think they want to track detailed inventory. We as accounting professionals need to save them from themselves and tell them, no, that's not a good idea. Let's just use a periodic inventory system until they get big and they have the staff and the dedication to do it right. They may not want to do a perpetual inventory system. So I'm going to go ahead and close a bunch of these windows that I got to open again. I'm going to look at some of the questions that you've been typing in here, see what we got going. This is way cool. Let me go ahead and say, no, I don't want to record that. This is way cool. Yay! So let's see. Somebody says, I want to make sure I understand the workflow. I would make an accountant's copy from my client's file, download it to my QuickBooks account, then access CDR, and then send it. As long as it's the same year or 1 year older, I can make the changes and send it back to the client. So that's correct. There's two different ways that you can work with client data review from your client. you can ask them, especially if you need to fix payroll mistakes, you can ask them for a backup file, restore that backup into your QuickBooks, make the changes you need, send it back to them. If you do that, if you get a backup or a portable from the client, you need to tell the client they cannot make changes in their QuickBooks file while you have that backup or portable copy, because they will lose their work. They can look at the QuickBooks file, look at reports, and look up customer information, but anything that they entered, they would lose when you restore that file. Or you can get an accountant's copy from them, which in the newer versions, most everything will go back, but payroll does not go back. If you want to know for sure what does and does not go back, go under Help and search for accountant's copy. In the older years of QuickBooks, I think it was like 2011 and older, these changes didn't go back. When we had fixed the unapplied payments and credits for receivables or payables, those did not used to go back, but that was one of the updates that Intuit made. So I can't tell you exactly which year it was because I can't remember. I think it was 2012 that was new. But go under Help and search accountant's copy and see what does and does not go back. And to be safe, kind of test it out. Also, when you're working with an accountant's copy, make sure that you tell the client, do not cancel or remove those restrictions because you won't be able to import those changes. Also, if you have more than like 500 changes that are going to be going back, you might want to send those changes back, import the changes into the client's file, and then create another accountant's copy and do it again. I've seen people who have had over 1,000 changes and it crashes when they try to export and import those changes into the client file. So you might want to keep the number of changes down a little bit. Where will we find the recorded seminars for today and stuff like that? You should get a follow-up email that says, here's the link to this webinar, so you'll be able to listen to this again. Can negative inventory be created because client did an invoice but hasn't yet received the PO? Yes, when the client sells the inventory before they enter the purchase of the inventory, that can create negative inventory. Again, the way to search for negative inventory, use this Troubleshoot Inventory tool in Client Date Review. And one of the things that you want to do is down here in the bottom right corner, change this not just as of the end of the period, not just as of 12/31, but let's look for negative inventory at any time during that review period, because that can cause problems when you have negative inventory. Let's see, we've got a lot of things. Does it check cost of goods sold and income accounts that are set up incorrectly? That's a great question, Sheila. No, it doesn't. So if you go to Lists, Item List, if you want to look for things that are set up incorrectly on your items list, come into your items list, do a right-click, Customize Columns, and I want to add the cost of goods sold account because, and I'm going to go ahead and move that up and click on OK. And now you can see in here, let me change my column width so you can see it better. This will allow you to quickly and easily review the accounts and the mappings of your items. So as you scroll through here, you can see these service items are set up as a two-sided or a double-sided item. If you're using job costing, you want to have two-sided or double-sided items. The way that you do that is you check the box right above the description. This will make it a double-sided or a two-sided item. Depends on where you're at, what you call it, double-sided or two-sided. We've determined that that's like tomato and tomato. But that will give you the side for the purchase or the expense account and the sales side. So check for that. Then also, as you're looking through here, you can look for account mappings that are incorrect or inconsistent. So for example, I have different things up here, labor and design income. That may be okay. As I scroll through here, I've got just plain old construction income with no sub-account. Maybe I need to fix that. As you scroll through and you look at your account mappings, you can look for things that may look incorrectly. That's something that you have to do manually. There's no tool in Client Data Review to do that for you. Okay, so I got, oh, thank you, Christy. Most excellent webinar. You are super great at doing webinars. Thank you, Christy. I appreciate that. You made my day. I appreciate the time you took to open our eyes. Yay. Well, that leads to one more poll question that I have for you all. Let me ask you now, what do you think of Client Data Review? So if you can take a minute to answer this poll question for me. Now, what do you think of Client Data Review? Somebody says, where can I sign up for your QBO webinars? If you go to my website, go to longforsuccess.com, and I got a blog out there, longforsuccess.com, click on blog, and you want to click on the one that says I've added a second session. Let me scroll down here. Look for the one that says, here it is. It's the second one, Intro to QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Online Account. So Log for Success blog, scroll down to this intro, new session added. Even if you can't attend, you might want to log in. Both of these are well over capacity, so if you want to attend, log in early to make sure you get on the live session. Otherwise, it will be recorded, and if you register, you'll get an email with a link to listen to the recording. Okay, oh, we can't see where you are. Thank you. Let me share the poll results, and then I'll show you where I'm at. So here's the poll results for us. Share, and we're going to wrap up in just 1 second. There's your poll results, about 50-50 split on, oh my God, I can't wait, and I think this is going to save me time. So that's super. So where I'm at is on my website, longforsuccess.com. Here, let me just put this, copy this link into, hold on here. Let's see. Let's go ahead and do send to all. There's the link. If you go to that link, you're going to be able to register for the QuickBooks Online webinars. I'm doing them this afternoon. They're both the exact same. It's just I scheduled 2 sessions because there's so many people that wanted to attend. So if there's any other last-minute questions, I know we are at the top of the hour and the end of the session. So those of you that need to end, I appreciate it. Those of you that want to stick around for a couple of questions, I will be here for a couple more minutes. There's my information. If you all want to subscribe to my blog for future webinars, I definitely would appreciate that. I'll look at a couple more questions here. Let's see. Let me look here. We've got a couple other questions. How do you correct inventory if adjusting journal entries were made in prior years? You're going to need to determine the amount of the difference and things like that. If it was in prior years, is it a material amount? Did it affect their tax returns? If it's just created a difference between the detail and the balance sheet, it may not be something that you need to adjust. You just really need to look into that. Are you doing any seminars or books for point of sale? No, I'm not a point of sale specialist or expert. However, there are some point of sale resources out there. The Sleeter Group has some by Leslie Capichetti. So if you look for point of sale at the Sleeter Group or on Amazon, you can find some point of sale resources. Let's see, one more question. This webinar was just over the top. Great, thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I had a client with a real mess, not knowing much about client data review. I severed the files and re-entered the 2013. Is there a way to reconnect the files or merge the old with the new? They're both the same year. If you want to merge files, you have to use a third-party tool. There's tools to import transactions. But if you've got a clean file now, I don't know that I would go through and do that. But if you want to, there are some tools that would help you with that. Check out q2q.us, the letter Q, the number 2, the letter Q.us, or Transaction Pro Importer from Bay State Consulting or Big Red Consulting. So a lot of you are saying thank you. I really appreciate you guys being here with me. We are going to go ahead. I'm going to look, see if there's any other burning questions here. If you have a client's copy that is 2012, can you use an accountant's copy in 2013, or do you need to use 2012? There's 1 year of backwards compatibility. So if your client is using QuickBooks 2012, they can send you an accountant's copy that you can use in 2013 and send the changes back to them. But that's only with an accountant's copy. Okay, I tell you what, I need a break before the next webinar at the top of the hour as well, so I'm going to go ahead and end this one. I want to thank you all for joining me. Again, subscribe to my blog for future webinars, and a lot of you, I'm going to see you in a little while on the next QBO webinar. So thank you, and I'll talk to you later.